Steph has had quite the summer. Not only did he give us his take on the whole GOAT debate, he also gave us his top 3 defenders he's faced during his career. And we know that it is not an easy task to guard Steph Curry. But here's what he said. He said, there's a group of 3 that, it was a light bulb went off when they were on the court. It was Drew Holiday, Tony Allen, and Ron Artest. I didn't get to play too many games against him, but he had the strongest hands you've ever seen in your life. When you put the ball around him, he'd just smack it right out of your hand. So, Brian, what do you think? Your reaction to Curry's top 3 defenders he's ever played against?
Yeah, so Ron Artest is probably the only player, or one of the very, very few, that I saw physically intimidate LeBron James during his career. That could actually physically handle LeBron, especially as a rookie. The only time I saw LeBron as a rookie get sort of intimidated was when Ron Artest went up against him when he was with the Indiana Pacers. My respect for Artest as a defender is immense. I would say one of the best defenders of the last 20 years without a question. He's been out of the league for a long time. Yeah. And bam, Steph came up with his name right away. What does that tell you? The other thing I'll say about Tony Allen, one of the things I could say about him is when he was guarding another player, and I had an opportunity a couple of times to cover series where Tony Allen was in the series. He so much got in players' heads that even when he got caught up on a screen and was off of the player, when the player caught the ball, he would shield himself and protect himself from Tony Allen, even though in a lot of cases Tony Allen was a much smaller player than the guys he was guarding. Right. And what a compliment for Steph. 2 guys who are out of the league, and Tony Allen, again, has been out of the league 5-6 years. Tony Allen's still in Steph's head 5-6 years later. He's still, when he thinks of those rough nights, Steph's still going, oh my God, I remember when Tony Allen was on my hip for 40 minutes. And so I will say this, Drew Holiday, one of the best 2-way players in the NBA, did something this last season that I don't think we almost ever see. I think it was like his 13th year, 12th or 13th year in the league, and he might have had his best season. But his reputation took a little hit against Jimmy Butler in the playoffs there. Jimmy Butler showing him up, talking him down, just, putting it in his face and carrying the heat to that victory. So I look for Drew Holiday to have a bounce-back season this year. He's also in a contract year, to get back from what Jimmy Butler did to that untouchable reputation before that.
I think when I think about Drew Holiday, obviously we're talking about a list of guys that is have made all defensive teams. We're talking about defensive players of the years in this list. Obviously, he's trying to get his way back into Steph Curry's nightmares. But when you think about Drew Holiday, I think about a guy who talked about, I want to be a champion, and I want to be known as an excellent defender. That's what he told me. So take a look at this. You can see the odds for DPOY up here. Jaren Jackson leading the way, Evan Mobley following him, and then 4 others. I think that teeny tiny print at the bottom says AD, Giannis, Bam, and Gobert. If I can read that. Gosh.
AD, Giannis,
I don't need glasses yet. All right, so today, starting with your
with
pick.
My contacts.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Starting with your pick here, your early, way too early August 1st pick for Defensive Player of the Year. Who is it?
Before this whole segment unfolded, the producers asked me what my thoughts were, right? And I initially went to Drew Holiday, and I feel validated by hearing Steph. I feel validated by the motivation that Brian sort of described, saying, hey, based off of how things ended for them last season, also it being a contract year, this is my pick. I know a lot of times, posts get the benefit because I think the narrative with Defensive Player of the Year has been rim protection and also blocks, right? But the reality is guards, it's not easy to be able to make a splash when it comes to steals and stops. But there was this one number I found. Last season, he held his opponents to 42.8 field goal percentage as the closest defender, which was second best amongst qualified guards. So, and also, it's hard when someone gets more, I guess you can say, acclaim for their offense. That's why I think it was the longest time we've seen between all-star seasons for a player. His offense was bubbling. He was that close, clutch guy towards the ends of games. And then, his defense was solid. Now, I know the circumstances in which they bounced out of the playoffs, but still, he's someone I have circled because we all know he's capable of that. 3-time, I believe, first team all-defensive. And also a guy that just, can get a stop and is one of those additions on a squad that you need on both ends of the floor. So I'm going with Drew.
I like it. What about one of Drew's teammates, Giannis?
I mean, that's another choice.
I mean, I know we're talking about Drew Holiday. Guards don't usually get the nod. We saw Marcus Smart get that nod, but I'm going to stick with Giannis. And speaking of Giannis, he is on his own little world tour. Check out this video. He's helping a young fan, a young camper in China, score a basket Oh my gosh, it's too cute.
That's like Wemby's view right there. That's Wemby's view.
That's wild. And then he was seen in Lagos. This is on the very court where
Nigeria
representing. It's time for some chop it or drop it. All right, you know how this works. So we're going to toss out a topic. If you want to talk about it, if it's worth chopping it up, you let me know. Otherwise, we're going to drop it. So we're going to start in the Miami Pro League, where Scottie Barnes, happy birthday, by the way, Scottie, put on a show. Check out this
smile.
Massive dunk. No one was smiling when this was thrown down. This is a good life lesson, kids. Shouldn't be anywhere near the lane when Barnes takes flight.
Oh, that's amazing.
Very aggressive here. So the Raptors, of course, they replaced Nick Nurse. We know this.
See the kid. Oh, so cute.
Yeah, with Darko Rajakovic. They also drafted Grady Dick, 13th overall, friend of the show. Re-signed Jakob Poeltl, and then they signed Dennis Schroeder to replace Fred VanVleet after he signed in Houston. Pascal Siakam is eligible for an extension now, while OG Anunoby, he's going to become extension eligible next month. All right, Brian, are we going to chop it or are we going to drop it? The Raptors, they need to begin the Scottie Barnes era in Toronto.
Yeah, I'm going to chop it, and I know that there's a lot of focus on what's going to happen with Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby, whether those guys are going to get extended. I don't think Anunoby will extend. His contract behooves him to come to be a free agent. But Scottie Barnes is where the Raptors have to pay attention to. For all the talk about them not being able to decide with their other players, one of the reasons last year was a disappointment for them was because Barnes did not step forward after winning Rookie of the Year. He had a sophomore slide, maybe not a slump, but a sophomore slide. He was not as good in his sophomore season as we all thought he would be. For the Raptors to take anything going forward, they need this guy to head towards all-star status. So I'm glad to see him playing well, whatever the level of competition is. There's some pressure on him this year, Malika, to have a good year. And, you know, he's contract eligible after this season. If he wants to get the giant contract, then the giant dollars that we talk about this time of year, he's got to have a great third season.
I agree. Year 3 is very important in professional sports. It's interesting when you come in. I think this is something that only players really know. That first year, all the vets are like, how do we guard you?
Right.
So everyone as a rookie is able to do whatever they want. And then the league adjusts and settles in. Year 2 is very difficult. So year 3, now you know exactly what you need to work on, exactly how defenses are going to guard you, and then you're able to be your best self. And you also know how to be a pro.
Yeah.
You know, you come in year 1 eating McDonald's and all that. I didn't do that. Never, right? And then year 2, you're like, I'm learning from my vets. And year 3 is like, I know myself, and I expect that jump for Scottie as well.
And then there's no more McDonald's. Sad. Next up, DeMar DeRozan putting in work. He dropped 33 points at the Drew League this summer. DeRozan, he is entering the final year of his 3-year deal with the Chicago Bulls. So, Ms. Ogwumike, DeRozan, he is eligible for an extension. Do it. So we're chopping it.
We're chopping it because I just love DeMar DeRozan. This is someone that has battled throughout his career, you know, not only physically on the court, but also trying to be his best self mentally. His vulnerability has really unleashed his best, you know, seasons. And I love him in Chicago. I know a lot of teams, like, the best thing you want is like, oh, you miss me. You missed me. You had the opportunity to get me, but now it's like, you missed me. And we all talk about how great, you know, a lot of times when 5-6 years ago, you know, the analytics, the numbers, you have to shoot threes. You have to at least do threes or paint points. Like, he's like, no, I'm not changing my game. I'm in love with the midi, the lone mid-ranger. I'm in love with the midi, and no one can stop that. We've seen him get better in picking and choosing, you know, how to advance that three. But nonetheless, I love his game. I like how he's settled into his role. And he is a star. He averaged, 24 points? And it feels like that is, quote-unquote, underachieving because he's someone we all see that he can drop 30 and consistently be up there. So I love DeMar in Chicago. And I think when you have a good thing, hold on to it. Or else you're going to miss it like other teams did.
Period.
Malika, you said it. He is eligible for an extension. 1 year left on the 3-year, $81 million contract he signed. We've nicknamed the Bulls Team Purgatory on the Hoop Collective because we just don't know where they're going. And the signings that they made this summer were keeping that team in place, keeping Nikola Vucevic, keeping Kobe White. Zach LaVine, coming off the knee issue, wasn't as good as they needed him to be last year. Where are they going? We don't know. And the rubber meets the road with DeRozan. Because this is a guy that if they wanted to trade, I think they could get really good return on him. He is a guy who's 33 years old. He is still able to produce at a high level. Attractive contract. You can extend him after you trade for him. But the way they're operating, they're not going that direction. So to me, I have high belief in DeMar DeRozan. I don't know if I want to give him a 4-year extension. I don't know if I want to lose him if I'm Chicago, but I know he's still very valuable as a player, and he's still working on his craft in the summer, as we just saw in those clips.
Well, it sounds like they are at a fork in the road, and they need to decide which direction the franchise is going, and that'll dictate which direction they should go with DeMar DeRozan. All right, watch this. Rudy Gobert, during a shoot-around with the French national team. Take notice right here. He's hitting these from 3. Now, Brook Lopez, he became an outside threat, right? The Timberwolves' Karl Anthony Towns. He's also been known to hit from range, but Gobert, he is a career 0 for 14 from 3. So Chiney, chop it or drop it.
Rudy, we're going to drop it.
Threes
we're going to drop it. You have to shoot those if you're a player, you're out there. That's mandatory in team shooting and team drills. Let him live.
I know we're dropping it, but Brian, you're laughing, and I gotta know why.
Appreciated that clip.
I know. Rudy, I'm sorry.
Rudy really appreciated that clip.
I'm sorry. Rudy is a friend of the show.
I'm just trying to improve my game,
man.
You got to bring up that.
He's working on it.
Form was not bad.
You know what? You got to stick to what you're good at. And sometimes for Rudy Gobert, we're dropping it. We're dropping it. All right.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.